Hi there, my name's Kate with Hoopie Strength and Conditioning, and today we're going to talk about breathing during your strength training sessions. I recently received a question from a client asking, now that we're moving into some heavier weights, or when the weights get heavier, I feel like breathing is important. What are your tips on doing this efficiently? And spot on, breathing is so important when the weight does get heavier. However, breathing is important all of the time. Breathing is one of those things that once you learn the skill, and it is a skill that requires time and patience and a lot of practice to learn, but once you do, it is really a game changer in your entire lift and will really help with the results. You will feel such a difference, especially if you're coming from a point of never really practicing this, breathing pretty haphazardly, and then bringing some intention. It's one of those quick fixes almost that you will immediately feel a difference. The idea here is more so on bracing your core rather than simply how to breathe. A braced core creates core stability so that you can create force and have a really great lift and get the most out of your session. Okay, so what does this look like? Let's start with your compound movements, something like a squat, bench, deadlift, something that is barbell focused, probably heavier. This is a time and place that it is really important to bring your focus and awareness to every single rep. We're not just thinking about breathing as we would normally when we're walking around. It's more so of an intentful, powerful breath. So we want to think about staying stacked, shoulders, rib cage, our core, and into our hips, this full extension of the upper body into the hips, and it's helping us create direction and stability. And from here, instead of thinking about taking a deep inhale and letting the shoulders rise, that does not help us at all. We want to take a deep belly breath. So as we inhale, our belly should get nice and big. If you see people wearing a belt in your gym, the idea here, and it is used incorrectly a lot of the time, but the belt is doing nothing if you are not breathing properly. The belt is more so there to give you sort of a physical feeling, a physical cue that as you take your deep belly breath, your whole core from your stomach to the sides of your core and your lower back, they're expanding and reaching out to touch that belt. The belt is not what's doing the work. Your belly needs to be doing the work. So you're taking that deep inhale, expanding out, filling up the belt, and then you're ready to do your rep. And ideally here with a compound movement, we're resetting after each rep. So let's say you're doing a squat, you're at the top, you're standing, your feet are locked in, you kind of worked yourself up from the ground, and now you're at your core, you take your deep belly breath, you've expanded into your core, or expanded your core into your belt. You are no longer breathing from here, you're gonna hold your breath, hold that tight, stable core, go into your squat. Once you stand back up, that is when you're able to reset, and you should reset to tighten up and bring that stability to its maximum before your next rep. Strongly encourage you to train beltless often, especially with your warm-up sets. Do not rely on your belt. Use your own core to develop, and this is one of the best ways to develop core strength. And so that mostly pertains to your heavy compound movements, most often seen with a barbell, like a back squat, deadlift, bench press, but this can translate into some more heavy dumbbell work or a heavy machine, even anything where the effort is really high and the weight is going to be higher and there's that elevated intensity. However, let's go into some more, generally speaking, dumbbell work. Maybe you're doing some lunges, some hip thrusts, maybe overhead press, like a single arm overhead press, things like that, where the reps are probably increasing some, the weights are lower, you're using dumbbells, maybe some machines, things like that. So from here, breathing is still important. However, we're not going to reset every rep, and we're not going to necessarily look for having a really tense core that we've had our belly breath and we've breathed out into our belt. You're not going to see a belt here as much, and the idea of that. Here we're looking for more of a sustained tension. So the idea with that is that you're not holding your breath, you're simply getting in your stacked position. So same thing, shoulders over the ribs, over the hips, core is nice and locked in. Let's say we're about to go into a lunge. We've done that, we've gotten tight, and we can perform our reps. And from here, I am almost able to talk. Now, if I was doing this as a real set with weights and a higher RPE, I'm not going to be talking through a set. But the idea, and this is where sort of the skill comes in, that you're able to maintain that positioning. It's more so about the positioning. You're able to maintain that, a sustained tension, while still getting some air. We're not holding our breath during these movements. Now, with that said, I would encourage resetting. Especially again, if you are doing a more challenging set, it's a really great idea as you come up, we're resetting again. So maybe putting that back foot down, taking a second, getting a good inhale again, making sure it almost helps to get out of position in a sense and pull yourself back in. Make sure you're locked in for that remaining part of your set and continue the reps. So there is a time and a place even within these accessories to reset. But again, we're not necessarily here looking for how to breathe. We're trying to approach this with how can I create tension? As we get into more of the accessory work, things that are lighter weights, things that are maybe a lower RPE, more so maybe on a machine, some kind of finisher. This can kind of blend into what we were just talking about with some dumbbell work. If it is less on the challenging side, this can be a part that is brought into it. And this, we want to, again, maintain that sustained tension, a sustained position of stacked shoulders over ribs, over hips, locked in core all around, but we are almost able to talk. However, a good note with this is to breathe on the easier part. So you're taking an inhale on the easier part of the movement, exhaling on the harder. So sticking with our lunge, we're going to take an inhale as we're coming back. And then as we're going to drive up in this leg, we're exhaling. And then at the top again, we're resetting. So we're inhaling, exhaling. And that is a good way to approach both the lighter movements and then getting into more of that mid-challenge, mid-rep dumbbell type work. That can relate to both of those. Now, the important thing to remember here is that we are looking for a maintained tension, not just breathing, and when to breathe in, when to breathe out. An example of that is, let's say you're lunging and you're following the cue of inhale on the way down, exhale on the way up. This is how it could be done incorrectly. If I'm taking a breath in, but I'm breathing up into my chest, my shoulders are elevating, I'm out of that stacked position, and this is pretty dramatic, but the idea of it remains that if I'm inhaling, just taking a deep breath into my chest, I've unlocked my core, and then I'm exhaling, maybe hunching over. That is not correct either, and that is absolutely not what we're looking for. So I hope that you can carry that message with you, and I hope that this little tidbit of advice is helpful. The idea is, in general, at all times, whether heavy, in the middle, lighter weights, the idea is to create tension, give your core stability so that you can move properly, and the breathing will sort of naturally sink. To go over those things again, in short, if we are doing max effort with a barbell, compound movements, we are looking at resetting every rep at the top, not moving our body around necessarily, but restacking our core from the shoulders to the ribs to the hips, locking in the core, expanding out as if we have a belt on, resetting every rep. As we move into some higher reps, lower intensity, still challenging though, we want to focus on maintaining that tension. We're resetting more on an as needed basis. Before you necessarily need it though, we don't want to hold our breath for an extended amount of time. We want to think about maintaining that tension and sort of naturally syncing our breathing with it. But the idea of it is that we have that stacked shoulders, ribs, hips, expanded core. We're maintaining that and letting the breathing follow. So we're not following a rhythm pattern that is inhale, lifting the chest, lifting the ribs. We are focusing on stacking and then letting that inhale and exhale follow in a natural pattern. I hope this helped. I know this is a skill. I remember it all too well, trying to learn it. It's become, and I hope this is the encouraging part, it's become something so natural that when I'm moving throughout a workout, it just happens naturally. It is not something I have to go in and focus on. I bring focus, I bring intention and awareness to my reps and to the set. And especially as we're getting under the bar and doing some heavier work, there is a lot of intention there. However, it's not something that I ever catch myself forgetting or not doing. It just naturally kind of clicks into your workout. So I encourage you that it will become a natural part of your lifting session, but it is a skill that takes practice, patience, and diligence to really focus and commit to practice on. So I hope this was encouraging, I hope it was helpful, and I hope you learned a little bit that you can carry into your next strength training session. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and we'll be back with more. Have a great day.